Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to learn about stem and leaf plots. So at the top of your paper, I'd like you to go ahead and write stem and leaf plot notes. And don't forget to put your name at the top of your paper. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what is a stem and leaf plot? This might be a new type of graph that you have heard before. So a stem and leaf plot is a way to represent data in a table where the data value is split into a stem, okay, and the stem, this is the first digit or digits, and a leaf, and our leaf is going to be our last digit. Okay. So let's look at a couple of examples of a stem and leaf plot. So our first example, I'm going to look at temperatures from the last 10 days. Okay, so we know that Ohio weather kind of goes up and down all over. Some days it's nice and some days it's a little chilly. So my days I have 63, 66, 62, 47, 51, 51, 57, 61, 67, and 50. So when we're making our stem and leaf plot, the first thing we need to do is go ahead and order those numbers least to greatest, because stem and leaf plots always need to be from least to greatest. So I know that I have a 47, that's my smallest, and I like to put a little check mark above it. Then I have a 50 and two 51s. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and check mark those. We have a 57 and a 61. And I see a 62 and a 63. And then our last two numbers, I have 66 and 67. So now we're ready to make our stem and leaf plot. Okay, so the first step, I need to write my word stem and leaf, and we're going to set up like a T-chart. Okay, so the left side is always my stem, and these always go up and down. And the way I find my stems, remember this is our first digit, so I'm going to look at my smallest number, which is 47. And my first digit there is a 4. So my first stem needs to be a 4. Now I'm going to look at my largest number, to 67, and my first digit is a 6. So I know my largest stem has to be a 6. So we're going to count 4, 5, and 6. Now our second, or this last digit here, this is our leaf. So I'm looking for all my numbers that have a stem of a 4, or a first digit of a 4. Okay? And my last digit here is a 7. So my leaf is going to be a 7. Now, that's all I have for my stems of 4. So now I want to look at my stems of a 5. Anything in the 50s, that first digit is a 5. So my leaf, my first leaf here, is a 0. Remember, we have to list these least to greatest. So it just makes it easier to already have our numbers least to greatest. So these have a last digit of a 1. So my leaf is a 1. And if you have two 51s, we have to list that 1 twice. Okay, and then my last number in my 50s right here, okay, has a stem of a 5, and then my leaf is a 7. Now I'm looking at all my numbers that have a stem of a 6, or all my numbers that are in the 60s. Okay, so remember, the 6 is my stem. So my leaf, I'm looking at this last digit right here. So I have a 1, because I have 61. I would read that as 61. Okay, then I have a 2, so I'd read that as 62. I have 63, so my stem is a 6 and my leaf is a 3. I have 66, so my stem is a 6 and my leaf is a 6. And I have 67, so my stem is a 6 and this last digit right here is a 7. And again, we're writing these across. Our leaves go across, and we always write them from least to greatest. Okay? So, let's go ahead and look at another example. And I'm actually going to flip my paper because we may come back and do some mean, median, mode, and range with that, use our central tendencies. Okay, so let's look at another example. Go ahead and do this on the back of your paper so we have lots of space. Okay, and this one is math test scores. So these are some of the last math test scores. And we're going to have some more numbers for this one. Okay, so for this, I have 69, 70, 80, 39, 56, 65, 98, 82, 64, 71, 78, 77, 86, 95, 91, 59, and 100. So remember from our first example, the first thing we need to do is to go ahead and list these least to greatest. So my smallest number is a 39, and I again put that little check mark to make sure we have it all. Okay, then I'm going to look at my numbers. I don't have anything in the 40s, so we're going to skip the 40s and we're going to go over to the 50s. So I had a 56 and a 59, and I'm going to check mark those off. Alright, and then in our 60s, I have a 64, a 65, and a 69. So let's go ahead and mark those off, make sure we got everything. My 70s, I have a 70, I have a 71, 77, and 78. In my 80s, I have an 80, an 82, an 86, a 91, a 95, we have a 98, and a 100. So let's check it. 100, we got all of our numbers up here. Okay, great job. So now we have our numbers least to greatest. So remember, when we're making that stem and leaf, our stem always goes on the left, and our leaf always goes on the right. And we make like a T-chart. So we're going to look, what is my smallest number? My smallest number here is 39. So remember that the stem is that first digit, that 3. So my stem is a 3. Now, 100's a little tricky. Remember, we can take the first digit or digits. So if I have it in the hundreds, my stem is actually 10. So I need to have all my stems going from 3 to 10. So we're going to count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Make my graph a little bit bigger here. Alright, so let's look at all my numbers that have a stem of 3, that first digit of a 3. And if I look, that leaf is my last digit, so my leaf is 9. Remember, we list these across and we list them least to greatest. So now I'm looking here at a stem of a 5. And my leaf is my last digit here, so I have a 6, and I have a 9. Now if you notice, we had no numbers in the 40s, so we're going to leave that blank. We're not going to put 0 because that would be a number. We're just going to leave that leaf here blank for the 4s. Right? On my 6s, I'm looking for anything in the 60s this time, because that first number of my stem is a 6. So if I have 64, I would write a 4 over here. Remember, again, we write that as 64. Okay? Now we have the number 65. So I put a 5, and I have the number 69. I'm going to write a 9. Now I'm looking at all my numbers in the 70s. Okay, so that stem of a 7 right here. We have lots of those. Remember, my leaf is that last number, so the number 70, I would put a 0 over here. 71, I have a 1. I have 77, so I put a 7. And 78 is an 8. My 80s, I have 3, so I have a 0, a 2, and a 6. And my 90s, I have 91, so I have a 1. 95, I have a 5. And 98, I have an 8. And my 10, remember I have 100, so that would be a 0. I would read that as 100. Now I think we forgot on our first graph, these always need a key, so we'll have to go back and do that. So for our key, this tells somebody that's looking at our graph how to read this graph. So I'm just going to use the number 39, and I have a 3 with our line in between, and a 9, and I read that as the number 39. So a 5 and a 6, I read that as the number 56. Okay, so let's go back, and let's go ahead and look and put our key on our first example. Okay, so my key for this one, I have 47. So 47, I have the number 4. With my line and a 7, and remember, we read that as the number 47. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find our central tendencies for this first graph. So for my mean, remember we add all our numbers and divide by how many numbers we have. So when I add all my numbers, I'd like you can use a calculator, go ahead and pause the video and add all your numbers. Okay, when I added my numbers, I get 575. And remember, it told us it was temperatures from the last 10 days, so we're going to go ahead and divide that by 10. Pause the video and go ahead and do that on your calculator. And you should have gotten 57.5. Okay? Median is my middle number. And this is nice because I already have them from least to greatest. So I'm going to cross one from the front, one from the back, front, back, front, back, front, back. I'm left with 2 numbers. So remember, when I'm left with 2, I add them up, so I have 57 plus 61. Okay, and you get 118. And since I have 2 numbers, I'm going to divide that by 2 and get 59. Alright, my mode. This is the number I see the most. Now be careful, because it's not 7. I have 47, 57, and 67. That's not the same number, even though I have 3 7s under that leaf. Okay, so my mode here, I have 2 1s after that 5, so my mode is actually 51. Okay, and my range, remember, is my highest minus my lowest. So my highest number, right here I have a 6 with the 7, so my highest number is 67, minus my lowest number, which is 47. I have a 4 and a 7, so I read that as 47. And we know that 67 minus 47 is 20. Okay, you guys did a great job today. I would like you on the back of your paper at the bottom, write your favorite season for us. Okay? And I will see you guys soon. Bye.